This is Henry Archuleta, KUHS Radio and TV here in Denver, Colorado. We have the up-and-close personal interview with Mr. Larry Dunn. So at this time, we're going to talk to Larry and see what he's got to say. With me to my left, we've got Justiz, also with KUHS Radio.
Yeah, so, like Henry said, we have the legendary, original Earth, Wind, and Fire member, Mr. Larry Dunn, with us. Thank you, Larry, for being with us. There we go.
Larry, we wanted to talk to you about, like every other interviewer does, how you got started, all that. No, we're going to move right into some of the people you know here, say a shout out to them. Say a shout out maybe to East High School.
Absolutely.
And maybe do a little shout out to anybody that you want to do a shout out to here in Denver.
There's so many people and it's been so long, but absolutely East High School, and why not Manual and Thomas Jefferson and Washington, and I actually went to Park Hill when I was a baby. Park Hill and then Barrett and Loyola. But I love Denver. Hi everybody. Hilliard Wilson is still with me. We grew up together actually before I met Philip. I met Hilliard Wilson when I was 11 and he was 13, and then we saw another band and had 3 singers out front. Philip was one of them, so we pulled him in with us. And Janet Bailey, Philip's ex-wife, and just a lot of Perry Jones that actually kind of hooked Philip and I up with Maurice. And I love Denver.
We have a host of different people you did a shout out to. Thank you, Larry, for giving that big shout out to, because I think everybody wanted to hear that.
Carl Caldwell.
All right, we missed that one.
Diane Reeves.
I
was one of the first ones to put Diane in the studio with my first production when I was about 21, Caldera. And still to this day, I get emails from all over the world. It's one of the finest Latin fusion albums ever, if I say so myself. And I'll make sure that you guys get a copy of that. We don't have any with the artist. You'll love it, man. Eduardo Del Barrio and Jorge Strunz. Just some great musicians.
Now, one of the things I know that's been one of the questions that everybody wants to ask, what made you leave Earth, Wind, and Fire, or did you just leave, or was it a parting of ways on your own?
Well, actually, it was a whole thing. I got with them when I was 7, actually just turned 18. Philip and I were in a band called Friends in Love with Hilliard, Steve Sykes, Larry Thompson. You guys know Larry, great drummer in Denver. A bunch of other great guys. We actually ended up opening the show for Maurice, because Maurice had 2 albums out on Warner Brothers with the very first Earth, Wind & Fire with some older gentlemen from Chicago. So we opened up the show for them at the Hilton Hotel here. It was an early show. Later on that evening, we were performing at this nightclub called 23rd Street East. None of us were old enough to be in there, and I was the youngest. I was 15. And I think that was a year later, so I was 16. And the rest of the guys were 18 and 19. And so after the gig, Maurice and Radine came down to the club to check us out. About a year after that, we broke up, they broke up, and Maurice had to regroup. Philip came out to Los Angeles to be a musical director for a gospel group called the Stovall Sisters. So he was traveling around, they were putting a band together, went to a lot of different musicians. So eventually Philip came back to Denver just to hang out. And he went to Manual just to hang out. And I was playing a gig with a guy, Sammy Mayfield from Denver. Right, because when our band broke up with Philip and us, Sammy hit on me to play with him. And I told him, I said, Sammy, I'll play with you with one condition. We got to rehearse. I said, okay. So anyway, our little bar band was opening for War at Manual High School, and that's where Janet, Philip's ex-wife, used to go. And so we opened the show, and I took like a 10-minute Hammond B3 solo. Philip was in the audience. He went to the phone. Let me show you. There was none of these then.
No touch screen.
And if you had a cell phone, it was about this big. Well, it was only FBI had that. So anyway, Philip goes straight to the phone, puts in $3, and he calls Maurice in LA and goes, I think we got the guy. He could really play. He's a good guy. He doesn't have a lot of experience. I told him, I said, don't ever tell anybody that. I was playing nightclubs since I was 11 years old. And so Reese said, okay. So I learned all of their material, the first 2 albums, by ear. I took classical when I was younger, played guitar, bass, violin, that was all disaster. Baritone horn, I was pretty good, not sax, but horn. And I learned all the stuff, flew out, Verdine picked me up. I had acquired a Fender Rhodes piano from some Hispanic brothers, got it from them, and went out, Verdine picked me up, we went up to their house, played some stuff, played all the Earth and Fire stuff, a little bit of Herbie Hancock, Maiden Voyage, and the rest, as they say, was history. I was in.
Now, one other question before we move on. We'd like to know, you had one other album before this album that just came out.
Yes.
Can you just touch on that, and then let's lead right into this album, because we want to know all about this album, how it came to fruition.
My first solo album, after years and years and years, was called Lover's Silhouette. And actually, my better half, Luisa, named it, and also produced and wrote with me. And we were in Japan. We had a buddy of ours that we worked with, an engineer from Japan that lived in LA, and we go back and forth. And I was doing these concerts with John Mark Simone, right? Jon Marks. He was a very big hit in the 70s. What was the name of the song? Love in C minor.
Yeah.
It's still huge. A little short guy, you know. He's got the hair like you. He's a drummer. And so he putting on these concerts that were crazy, man. The music was kind of a little relaxed, more like new age rock opera. But the production was, man, like fireworks and lasers and people painted gold and just unbelievable.
It's totally floss.
Yeah, oh man. And there was like how many people in Japan for that? There had to be 500,000 people. And I'll never forget when she told me there was an old Japanese man. The concert was amazing, but what was even, I'm not going to say more, but very amazing was how all those people got up and made their way out, and there was no trash on the ground. She said they're like ants. They're so efficient. But anyway, after that, I hooked up with Hiroto, and we had a cassette. You know about cassettes? A cassette tape, and we had some of our original material on it. And so Hiroto knew this guy, a young Japanese guy that had his own label called Zero Corporation. And we had a meeting with him. We gave him the cassette, had like 5, 6 songs on it. He called us back. He said, let's sign. And he said, only one thing. Can you promise you feature your wife on at least one song? I said, of course. That's an easy one there. And yeah, they came, and he was so cool because unlike some companies or maybe A&R guys, he didn't say do this or do that. He just gave us a budget and said, we know who you are. Give us some great music.
Into the Journey.
And then Into the Journey.
That has to be one fabulous new cut by Larry Dunn.
So now, actually, you know what? The music industry, as most people know, and you know, is really metamorphosing and changing. Back in the days of Motown, where they had artist development, and even when Clive Davis signed Earth, Wind and Fire after the older group, and then with the new guys, with Philip and I and all that, they had artist development. They didn't even, not that they didn't care, but they didn't expect you to sell 2 million copies the first go around. It was not really an issue. You know, you got to groom yourself and go all over the country and play and get tight and get tight and get tight. So that's really what we did. But now, there's good and bad sides of that. The thing is now, we are the record company. It took us 7 years to do this. Hopefully it won't take that long to do it. Actually, we're working on hers now. But it took 7 years to do this because people, why? When? Hurry up. We're the record company. We're the artists. And here's the big one. What else are we? The bank. Because we make sure, we're very honest people. We make sure that we compensate everybody that we work with. And so, and plus we took our time, and we have our own studio, which is a great thing. And we have a joke. I was talking to Ronnie Laws a couple of years ago. I said, isn't it nice to be able to take your time and record in your own abode? And you don't have to listen to the A&R guy going, you know, it's great, man, but I'm not so sure about the bass on track 6. And I go, I know you're not because you don't play bass. Oh, snap, you don't play anything. So, but like I said, we took our time, man, and there's quite eclectic. Like I said, we've got African music, we've got Brazilian, we've got pop, funk, what else?
We got world music.
World music, right.
Spoken word.
And then we
Larry, with the advent of technology, you know the advent of technology is changing everything. It's at the speed of light. I mean, you touch a button and you can get this all over the nation. We, of course, heard about it. We're following Larry Dunn because we're a radio station. We want to know what's going on. Tell me, what are the ways that you're going to utilize the technology to push your new album?
Well, actually, like you said, it's a new day. That's the good news about this stuff. The day of the musician that just, hey man, I just play, and I mean that, if you want to do that, fine. But if you're willing to learn and put on a couple of different hats and do some different things, it's a great time for great musicians to live. Not slothful, but willing to work, because it may take a little longer, but for one, remember when Prince was going around with slave tattooed on? Because a lot of, in the history of music, you sign with Columbia, Capitol Records, or what have you, they end up owning your legacy. They own the masters, they own the photos, what do they call it? What do they call that? Property, intellectual property.
Intellectual rights
they call
and
it.
property.
So like I said, now takes longer sometimes because we have to budget everything, but at the end of the day, you own it, and then the ways to market it are various, but of course the social networking is great. What's some of the other ones? Like this personal appearances and talking with people like you guys, and we really appreciate what you do, because back in the day it was I don't care what they say, it was the payola, and I'm pretty sure.
One last question. One last question for you, Larry, before we cut the interview. How well do you think this new album will do for you?
Well, it's doing well. Like I said, if you're not with a major label where it's just blasted everywhere, and what we do a lot, what I tell people is, we post this on our website, LarryDunnMusic.com. So somebody squatting on just my regular name. Anyway, LarryDunnMusic.com, and we get orders all the time. Are they selling like hotcakes? No. But we get orders from Sweden, Italy, Chicago, Denver, wherever, and then we sign it. If they ask in the PayPal box, there's a little thing where you sign. You want us to sign it? She takes the gold pen.
And that concludes this up close and personal interview with Larry Dunn. This is brought to you by KUHS Radio and TV worldwide. UHS Communications. Make sure and check us out. The Larry Dunn exclusive here in Denver, Colorado. And a word from Justiz.
Make sure you check me out Friday and Saturday 12 to 3 with the best in old school. And make sure to check out Sundays, my Canciones de Domingo show, 10 to 1 o'clock, the best in New Mexico and Tejano music. It's all live, so make sure you check it out.
Yeah.